everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Glossy Philosophy. My name is Jansen Binman. Make sure that you are subscribed to this channel. Give this video a thumbs up because today we are doing our September book talk on Jill Burke's How to Be a Renaissance Woman, so stay tuned. How to Be a Renaissance Woman, The Untold History of Beauty and Female Creativity by Jill Burke is a very interesting, enraging, intriguing book. It has all the things that you would hope it would have, from head to toe, discussing beauty and even bringing it into modern day times and relating what a Renaissance woman versus a modern woman is dealing with, struggling with, all the pressures, all of the things. So let's start off by talking about Jill Burke. Now I took a few notes, so I'm going to read from those. Jill Burke became fascinated with the idea that women have been dealing with beauty issues and societal standards since at least the Renaissance, and for sure before that. It's just very well written about during the Renaissance, and that's what she's really interested in, so that's what she knows. She teaches at the University of Edinburgh and is the lead investigator of the Royal Society funded project Renaissance Goo, working to recreate Renaissance cosmetic and skincare recipes. Now, why does she do this? She does this because she wants to feel the texture. She's not, of course, using any of the very bad chemicals that they used before, but she is trying to get a sense of what did those moisturizers feel like and how can she relate those to today's moisturizers, how much has changed, how much has not changed. Now let's get into a quick summary of the book. The book, again, it goes from basically your hair all the way to your toes, discussing what was okay in Renaissance society, what was not okay, what was thought beautiful, why it was thought beautiful, who thought it was beautiful, and how that kind of got pushed onto women, much as it does today, who's making these rules, all the things. There are some really humorous parts, there are some very sad parts, there are some very just like, I can't believe that we're basically doing the exact same morning routine that we were doing way back when, and it brings you as the modern woman or person who enjoys a beauty routine. And Jill Burke does a fantastic job of relating the modern woman, the modern female, with the Renaissance woman, the Renaissance female. So let's get into favorite things that I found enraging and all that good stuff. One of the most interesting things I found was the actual morning routine. So it says 6 non-negotiable things to do in the morning was wash your hands, wash your eyes, move and stretch, brush your teeth, and comb your hair. Now, this is pretty much what I would say a majority of us do, male, female, on a regular basis. We like to stretch, we like to move our bodies a little bit in the morning, and we certainly like to wash our face. We like to get our hair ready, all those things. And I just love that this is the same routine that Renaissance women were doing, and it was from the poorest of the poor all the way to the richest of the rich, if of course you had time being the poorest of the poor. But anybody who is interested in kind of climbing society, anyone who's interested in presenting themselves in a good manner into society, again, it didn't really matter where you were socially or economically. These were the 6 non-negotiables that got printed over and over and over again in pamphlets that got spread across during the Renaissance time. So something else that needs to be talked about is that the spread of language and the education of women is starting to happen. It's starting to be okay that women are getting educated and that they're allowed to read and all those things. So what do the people who decide what is okay and what is not okay in society, aka a lot of men, they make pamphlets on how to be more beautiful. So again, this is a lot of the same things that you and I are still dealing with. Have you ever asked yourself who's making these rules of what's in, what's out, what is really important in a beauty world or the fashion world or anything dealing with women, and who's deciding what isn't? Is it women or is it men? I always think it's a really interesting question to ask, especially if something doesn't feel quite right, if a trend doesn't feel right, if just something feels a little bit off, or it feels like it's too excessive, it feels like they're just like companies or society is wanting you to spend more money. Why? What is the point? And who is deciding this for us? A lot of the time still, unfortunately, is men. And while women are definitely more at the table and in the room deciding things for women, it is something that we still need to continually ask: who is deciding what is good and what is bad for women? Something else that I found very interesting was that hair uncovered hair, so hair without a hat or a veil or a scarf or anything like that, was thought to be a very intimate thing. And because women's heads were covered often with some kind of headdress, there started to be paintings of women washing their hair. And while that feels more like a shampoo commercial or something like that for us, for men it would like drive them crazy because it was such an intimate thing. It was something that they just didn't see, especially if they weren't married. And if you were married, even kind of like trying to catch your wife washing her own hair was very like sassy time. So I think that's just really interesting because nowadays it's just like, yep, I'm washing my hair, no big deal. But back then, it was such a private affair for women that men weren't really allowed into the women's world of that. And it becomes so intense that people want paintings of women washing their hair. Along those same lines is that sometimes the government, again men in the Renaissance, would step in to enforce laws about what women should and should not look like. So much so that in 1480, a hairstyle hiding the forehead was outlawed. That husbands were fined if their wives were caught in public hiding their forehead. Now the thought behind this is that if you hide your forehead, then you can hide the fine lines and wrinkles, and men won't be able to tell how old you are. And so they might want to marry you even if you are past the age of 16 or 20. And how dare you try to look better than what you are? A key concept in the Renaissance is that you must stay in your lane economically, socially, and age-wise, especially if you are a woman. If you are beyond that child-rearing area, but maybe you're still attractive or you've taken really good care of yourself, and you can't possibly be attractive to men because men only want to have babies and all that stuff. So that is the idea behind that law. And I think, again, you always have to ask, who is making this rule? Why are they making it? Is it ridiculous or does it actually make any sense? Now here's a good one, ladies. Women could use their hair to signify loyalty or political allegiance. Now we've seen this in fashion before, but we haven't really seen it in the beauty world quite so much as we see it in the Renaissance. In the Renaissance, women really could use, if they had the means and if they had the time, they really could use what they looked like on the outside to display, to basically have silent communication of not only how old they are, I'm available, I'm not available, I'm sort of available even though I'm technically not, but also they can share hidden messages within what they're wearing by the colors that they use, by the textures that they're using, and also apparently how they're styling their hair. Are they a little bit more liberal? Are they a little bit more conservative? All of those things. And I think that is something that we are kind of missing nowadays. We're not really utilizing what we look like on the outside, even though it already is a form of communication. We've kind of swept it aside a little bit, and I think we should regain that, because what you look like can be such a powerful tool for men and women, any age, of I am here, I have something to say, and you cannot ignore me, which I love that idea. So staying along the same lines of hair. The urge to style hair was irresistible. Official visitations from the church authorities constantly were going after nuns for styling their hair in too stylish a manner. I just love the idea of these women who have dedicated their lives to God and the church, and they also want to do their hair. I think that's really fun. I think that's really cool. And number one, I think it's hilarious that the church authorities care that much. And number two, I think it's amazing and a great way to show that women, no matter where we are in history, refuse to lay down and just be told exactly what to do. If we're nuns or not nuns, we will do as we please, and you can punish us, but we'll keep doing it anyways, so knock it off. two more things that I just kind of want to leave this book talk with, and it's a tricky book talk because it's all historical, right? Jill Burke presents a really great case for beauty and against beauty through the entire thing, and really makes us question, even now in modern days, like, why do we wear makeup? Why do we care about our skincare? Why do we do our hair when it feels like the men or other people might not care quite so much? Is it just us spending a lot of money because a man told us that this is how we will be attractive to them? I think we've moved hopefully beyond that, but of course that societal pressure is always there. The male gaze is kind of always there. And kind of along those lines is that to be truly beautiful in the Renaissance, a woman was expected to be silent, chaste, and contented. And we know from history that that just wasn't the case, that a lot of women who kind of shook things up were not silent, they were not chaste, they were not just doing as they were told. They were the movers and shakers who went against it, especially Queen Elizabeth I, for sure. So again, I think Jill Burke does a phenomenal job of sharing stories that are heart-wrenching, of women being abused by their husbands, by doctors, in the name of beauty or in the name of laws against styling their hair a certain way, wearing certain things, whatever. But also a way for a woman to take control of her own life when she wasn't given as much control as a man, and a way, again, to communicate silently how she was feeling about either the laws, politics, or even her own relationship that she is currently or not currently in. By the end of the book, you feel a little confused, right? You're not really sure if, because Jill Burke has formed this connection between the Renaissance woman and the modern woman, it can feel a little confusing and a little jolting, like, ooh, are we kind of in this similar spot? We wash our faces the same, we have the same, hair routines even, and like, what is it all for? But when I think about something that Sally Hughes, who's a British beauty writer, said in one of her interviews and one of her award acceptance speeches, she said, "I don't understand why it's okay for men around the world to care so much about a sport they have nothing to do with. They don't play it, they're just watching it. And they can speak for hours on that, and that's okay. They can know the statistics, they can know all the players, they can rattle off the entire history of a team. But when a woman wants to talk about fashion and beauty, she is considered stupid and vain and all these negative traits. And yet both of these things bring joy to both of these kinds of people, and yet one is appreciated and one is looked down upon." I always feel, and even when I was working at Sephora, I always felt like if you wanted to wear makeup, cool. If you didn't want to wear makeup, cool. If you like wearing a lot of makeup, awesome. If you like a more natural look, awesome. It doesn't matter. It's really more a form of expressing yourself, of highlighting the things that you love about yourself, and taking down things like under eye circles, or if you have a spot on the face, a pimple, whatever, maybe just distracting the viewer from looking at that and being able to see you and listen to your message and how you are showing up that day. I love that I can use beauty as a way to not only express my own emotions, but I can also use it as a tool to complement what I'm wearing for that day. It is a very powerful tool, and I think if we look back in films and if we look back through the history of not only actual history, but also in paintings and the stage, we see the power of the visual image. And to be able to have the freedom nowadays to wear whatever we want and to put whatever we want on our face and to look however we want for the most part, I think is pretty powerful. And I think that in the mornings when we're getting ready, we should think about that and appreciate that. And if you don't want to wear makeup, that's awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to wear makeup, if you want to wear that red lip, if you want to wear that smoky eye, there's nothing wrong with that either. And we should celebrate each other and help each other out and forget about everything else. So that is the book talk. Thank you guys so much for listening to this book talk by Jill Burke. I love reading about women in history. It is always surprising at how much more involved women have been in their own history, and we are just now, it seems like, uncovering more and more about the lives of women in the past and what creative and amazing things that they've done. If you are reading along with me, the book talks are down below for the next couple months, as well as any book talks that you've missed this year. I hope you enjoyed this one. I normally do fashion and beauty videos on Wednesdays, and I will see you very soon in the next one. Bye.